Unsung Murder Ballads is a true crime podcast, and as such, we will be discussing topics that are disturbing, graphic, and often violent in nature. So this is not for children under the age of 13.
But you know this because you did start playing this episode. So here are some things you might not know about us.
We are going to be critical of mistakes made by both criminals and law enforcement.
We're going to express our views on things that you might not always agree with.
We will occasionally go on an off-topic tangent.
And we're going to use dark humor to express ourselves now and then.
So if you're easily triggered, this might not be the podcast for you.
However, if this is your cup of tea, then raise your pinky finger while you sip and join us for this week's horrific case, you sick bastards.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Unsung Murder Ballads. This is episode 163. I am Janus Dead.
And I'm Joyous Dead.
All right, I feel like we haven't been together in forever. How are you?
Doing well. No complaints. Sorry I was gone. I had to get a tattoo and snowboard. Sorry I'm so cool.
I know you're much cooler than the rest of us. That's for sure. But to be fair, I'm so old you couldn't get me on a snowboard, so there's that.
I don't think it would be very safe for you. I think we would break a lot of parts of you.
Yeah, I've never broken a bone, but I think I've reached that point where it's just not a good idea. Yeah, and I'm okay with that.
I've torn a ligament, and let me tell you, I'm terrified.
I believe it. And you're half my age, so there's that. Well,
Yeah.
a little more than half my age. I'm not that old.
Yeah, I'm 30, which is, I can be a little bit afraid of my bodily integrity.
Me at 30, I would have dove headlong into almost anything, but I don't like the cold, which is why snowboarding and skiing was always out anyway.
Yeah, that was never going to be for you.
Yeah, no, not at all. Like this blizzard that's happening outside, fuck that.
And I'm like, I had fun shoveling today.
No, I actually need to buy a new shovel. Like I broke my shovel the last time I had to dig my car up. So
Rip. Okay, well, you need to become a New Englander again.
yes, yeah, something like that. I've been here most of my life though, so there's that.
Some people just, you can be born in a place, but you cannot be from that place. You know what I mean?
No, I got you. Yeah, I'm definitely my soul should not be here. That's very true. If I have a soul. All right. So tonight's episode, before we launch into this is one that's been on my list since the very beginning.
And you've waited so long.
So long. I don't know if listeners remember, we had an early on, we had a regular co-host named Erin that would join us. And before I ever recorded the first episode, she and I were talking about this case because she wrote to the person that this case is about in prison.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and I'm not going to talk about why yet. We'll get to it at the end, but it kind of blew my mind then. And when I heard about this case, I did a deep dive, and that's when she told me that she had written him. And I honestly thought we would have covered this in the first 6 months of doing this and then have Erin on with us, but that never happened.
Well, now you have me intrigued.
Well, and it just get ready for some twists and turns. This is a weird one.
Well, alrighty. I'm strapped in.
All right. So here's our teaser. On a quiet stretch of Interstate 55 in Illinois on June 5th, 2007, at approximately 5:15 a.m., a passing motorist stopped to offer assistance to a man who was limping along the side of a highway near Joliet, Illinois.
I hate that true crime has ruined my brain, and I'm like, oh no, you can't help him. But only because we're telling this story right now.
Right. And to be honest, I don't think I would have stopped. Not gonna lie, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
You don't know if he's being pursued by someone. You don't know if he's the person that's causing problems. I wouldn't have stopped. I'd have called police, but I wouldn't have stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this man had 2 gunshot wounds. One of the bullets had pierced his left wrist, and the other one had gone into his left leg. So this driver had pulled over and he asked the man if he had been in an accident or if he had been stabbed. And the man said, quote, "No, I think my wife shot me," unquote. Yep. This is the story of Christopher Vaughn. So that's your teaser.
That's quite a teaser. I think my wife shot me.
I,
Man, if you're not sure,
you
I don't know
know,
what we're doing here.
I think my wife shot me. That one, that's a hard one to swallow. What do you
That's
mean? Yeah, what do you mean by that?
Someone shot me, but I was running away, I guess.
I think it was my wife.
I think it was my, or maybe he's not sure if she's really his wife. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we'll get into it. I know, and you're about to learn.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just speculating.
Yeah, I was playing along with you until you said that, and I was like, now we have to.
All right, tell me the truth.
All right, if you asked people who knew him, they would say that Christopher Vaughn was a soft-spoken, polite, and responsible man. He was born in 1975, and he grew up in Illinois and later joined the military, serving in the Army National Guard. He married Kimberly, and together they had 3 children, Abigail, Cassandra, and Blake. Now, to tell you a little bit about Kimberly, she was born Kimberly Ellen Phillips, and when she met Christopher Vaughn, they had an immediate connection. She was strikingly beautiful. She was 2 years older than he was, and she was more sophisticated and mature than he was. He was just out of high school when they met. She was raised in...
Interesting.
Right? I mean, it's just like a 20-year-old woman dating an 18-year-old guy. I guess isn't that strange, but...
Yeah, not that weird, but you're really emphasizing how much more mature and sophisticated she is, so this is interesting.
She was raised in St. Charles, Missouri. She was the daughter of Dell, who was a lawyer, and Susan, who was a teacher. In high school, she enjoyed sports, especially volleyball. She was one of 3 daughters, and she was also one of a pair of identical twins. Now, Christopher Vaughn had a lot more friends before he met Kimberly. And once he met her, she kind of got in between him and those friends.
That sucks. Hate to see it, but, kids.
Kids, they're young. And
Typical relationship when you're 18.
When I was going to say, it depends. Like, I could see if, you picture me as a teenager. I'm out causing trouble. I'm vandalizing. I'm getting into fights, whatever. Someone coming in and separating me away from that would have been a good thing.
That is true.
Now, we don't have the details of if whether or not he was just whatever, if he was out causing trouble and that was a good thing, but she definitely separated those. So according to his family, when Chris and Kimberly first started dating, she consumed his world. His grades started to decline, and after she became pregnant, he just dropped out of college altogether.
Oof.
Now, outwardly, they were a normal suburban family. Their kids played sports, and she volunteered at schools. And Chris worked in IT, and he provided for their household. But behind closed doors, things weren't so perfect. Kimberly was struggling with depression and anxiety. She had been hospitalized in the past and took medications. Friends of hers said that she sometimes felt overwhelmed by motherhood and with life in general.
Can't blame her, man.
Honestly, I'm right there with her. Like, I don't, especially on a day like today, I don't want to be here.
Yeah, man, I'm overwhelmed by life all the time.
So, side note, one of the girls at work, one of the regulars, was asking her, how those people like to do those, would you prefer this or this? Would you rather this or this kind of thing? So the person started off, he goes, would you rather die? And he paused for a moment, and she just goes, yes. And he didn't catch on to the joke she was making. So he repeated. He's like, well, no. He goes, no. Would you rather die? And she was like, yes. It was so fucking funny.
Oh, that's excellent.
Anyway, where was I? So Christopher Vaughn had started a licensed private detective agency in Washington State called the Stonebridge Security, and that specialized in cybercrime.
Okay, I was going to say, what's this IT guy doing being a detective, but that makes sense.
Cybercrime, yep. So Kimberly began working on her degree in criminal justice with plans to start her own private investigator business.
Oh, wow. They're like a separate one?
Well, I think they were going to merge once she kind of moved along.
Gotcha. That's cool.
So the Vaughns decided to close their businesses when Christopher was offered a job at Navigant Consulting's Computer Forensic Group, and the family moved to Oswego, Illinois in 2005, approximately 2 years before the events we're going to discuss today. Now, We're going to jump forward into June of 2007, June 5th to be precise. In the quiet pre-dawn hours of that Thursday morning, the Vaughn family loaded up their Ford Expedition, which is an SUV, and they set out before 5 a.m. from their home in Oswego on an impromptu family trip to a water park that was 3 hours away in Springfield, Illinois.
It's a long way to go for a water park.
Well, they would never actually get there.
Oh.
Just before 8 a.m., Vaughn pulled over onto the side of the interstate outside of Channahon, Illinois. What happened next would become one of the most debated family murder cases in modern American history. This is when the passing motorist sees an SUV sitting on the shoulder of the road and pulled over to ask Vaughn if he needed help. They saw him They saw him on the side of the highway bleeding. Now again, he said that he thought his wife Kimberly had shot him. So they call the police. And at 5:24 a.m., first responders arrive, and they followed a trail of blood that led them to the red Ford Expedition.
Ooh.
When they got there, all the doors of the SUV were closed. Inside were the remaining members of Christopher Vaughn's family, all dead.
Oh.
His 3 children were in the back seat. 12-year-old Abigail was behind the driver's seat. She had been shot once in the head and once in the chest. She had also been clutching a Harry Potter book and a stuffed animal.
Oh.
Her younger sister, Cassandra, 11, sat in the center, and her little brother, Blake, 8 years old, was seated behind the passenger seat, and both of them had also been shot twice.
Oh.
Evidence would later show that Blake was holding his arms out in a defensive position, likely because he saw what was coming.
Oh.
The body of Kimberly was slumped in the passenger seat with a single gunshot wound under her chin.
Oh.
On the floorboard at her feet was her purse and a 9mm handgun. So Christopher Vaughn, the only surviving member of the family, was loaded into an ambulance bound for the hospital. On the way there, Chris Vaughn appeared to believe his family was still alive. When he got there, he told a nurse, quote, "You should call my wife. She gets mad when I don't call her," unquote.
What the hell? And he has gunshots too, you're saying?
Yes, one in his wrist and one in his leg.
Hmm.
Your thoughts on that?
Like there was a struggle for the gun that he ended up losing.
Or superficial wounds versus very serious wounds? We've seen this before.
Oh, right. Yeah, right. Obviously, they could be self-inflicted.
Right. So again, I just threw that out there because that was what was going through my head the first time I heard this case. So
Right.
very suspicious in my mind.
Incredibly.
So,
To be the only survivor is suspicious.
Exactly. Especially because the children in particular, 2 shots each.
Yeah, that's
it's
awful
weird.
systematic, isn't it?
Yeah. So after being released from the hospital, Vaughn was taken to police headquarters where he was investigated by detectives. Now, Vaughn had gaps in his recollection of what happened that morning. He said his wife wanted him to pull off the highway because she was feeling nauseous, which is a side effect of the anxiety-induced migraines that she had. And there's a possible prescription medication that she was taking that also may have contributed. Which will
Yeah, I mean, I get nauseous all the time in the car.
Do you really?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm never driving. And so I'm not often like looking up and at the road.
Oh, gotcha.
So, yeah. And I also get migraines from being in the car for too long.
Okay, fair. Well, Vaughn remembered pulling off the highway and parking along a nearby short, side road, which provided privacy for his wife in case she did need to vomit or something. And he said he got out of the car to check the tires and the rack where they had their, the rack on the top of the car where they had their travel bags for going to this water park.
Mm-hmm.
He recalled resecuring those straps, making sure everything was good, and he said he even saw a deer in a nearby field. Odd.
Weird details to provide.
Thank you. Just thinking the same thing. It was only after getting back into the vehicle that Vaughn noticed his leg was bleeding, but he said he had no memory of being shot.
What the hell? What the hell is this story?
It's suspicious all across the board.
Yeah.
The next day,
If I'm trying to make up a fake story, this isn't the story I'm making up.
you think someone, especially someone who investigates like cybercrime, would know to have a better story than this.
For real.
Which almost gives credibility to the amnesia thing.
Fair.
Right? The next day, police would interrogate Vaughn again, and his reaction during questioning raised a lot of concerns. At one point, when looking at the photo of his 8-year-old son, Blake, Vaughn suddenly crumpled it up and threw it into the corner of the room. Less than a week later, Christopher Vaughn would be arrested at the funeral of his wife and children.
Oh my fucking God.
Horrible time to do it. I get it, you need to arrest him. And I get it, you know where he is, but that could have waited.
Oh, I was assuming you were saying it was because of something he did at that funeral.
No, they waited to arrest him there. Yeah, and to be honest, that may have been part of maybe her family's, that was maybe her family's idea, like get him out of here kind of thing. I don't know, crazy to me. But as we begin to dive into the details of what happened, we need to look at the forensic evidence first, and this is what they initially found. So first we have the gun, which was found inside the vehicle, but forensic testing revealed that Kimberly Vaughn had no gunshot residue on her hands. So she didn't fire the gun, but Christopher Vaughn did. Now, this, believe it or not, this is not definitive on its own because residue can be wiped away. But then,
right, that makes sense.
But then came blood spatter analysis. Experts determined that the children were shot from close range while they were seated, obviously. At the angles, the wounds suggested the shooter was positioned in the front seat or outside the vehicle, but not from the passenger seat.
It's kind of incredible they can figure that out.
Well, even more troubling, Kimberly had been shot multiple times, including in the head and chest, in a way that didn't match any kind of like suicide attempt if she were the one to be the shooter.
That couldn't really be self-inflicted.
Right. Because like you get under your chin, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. And then, of course, there's Christopher's injuries, which we've talked about. We have the wrist and the leg. The doctors even said that the wounds themselves were suspiciously superficial and appeared to be more self-inflicted than maybe defensive, which is what he was claiming. But he's saying he doesn't remember what happened. Keep this in mind.
Yeah, okay.
So the police dug deeper. They uncovered something that completely changed the tone of the case. They argued that Vaughn killed his family because he was frustrated with his wife and wanted to live off the grid in the Canadian wilderness.
What the fuck?
This is weird. And this is what they found. In the months preceding these murders, he had corresponded with an individual who lived in Ottawa, Canada, about camping and living in the woods. He had also taken a trip to the Yukon Territories in May of 2007. He allegedly asked for help from someone to make fake IDs or to fake his own death so that Kimberly could collect life insurance.
What the fuck?
Vaughn also visited strip clubs on a number of occasions and spent approximately $4,700 during 2 visits.
Wow. I mean, I've never been to a strip club, but that sounds like a high spender.
That's a lot of money. Yeah, for one person. Yeah.
Yeah. Good for the girls.
Prosecutors even called 2 of these dancers to stand and testify, and talk about their conversations with Vaughn while he was at this strip club.
Wow.
According to one of them, he visited the club 4 or 5 times and stated that he wanted to leave his wife and move to Canada. Another testified that he told her he was single and that he didn't have any children. But despite that, like, are you really going to tell a dancer your life story? Just saying.
Listen, I don't know what people do in those clubs, man, but that does sound weird to me.
Yeah, like if I wouldn't even give him my real name. You know, like I just can't imagine that that's necessary.
I
Like,
have heard stories of people, going to strip clubs and literally just paying the women to listen to them talk about their problems,
you know,
which,
I, I
valid.
I can see that. I can see that. I think it would be cheaper to talk to a therapist, but hey, whatever.
If you don't have insurance, strippers probably cheaper.
Maybe, and probably nicer to look at.
Yeah, much as I love therapy.
And of course, as much as for all the other things, this is pretty obvious. Christopher Vaughn, of course, was having an affair.
Naturally.
He had been seeing a woman named Tara Maxwell for months. He had told Tara that he was separated from his wife and talked about starting a new life together, as he sent her romantic messages and even made future plans.
Wow, like come on over to Canada, live in the woods with me.
Right? First off, who would want to do that? I mean,
Girl, yeah,
another
I'm not.
nature enthusiast, maybe.
For every crazy, there's an equal crazy, and they will be together.
That's true. Now, based on evidence, Kimberly had no idea any of this was going on. But that wasn't all of it.
Oh my God.
Financial records show that Christopher Vaughn was drowning in debt.
Oh.
And he had recently increased the life insurance policies on his wife and children.
Oh, come on, dude.
In total, the payouts would have exceeded $1.5 million.
Dude. Idiot.
So suddenly, prosecutors had a fairly obvious theory that he wanted out of his marriage and his financial problems, and he wanted out of fatherhood. So instead of just walking away, they say
Dude,
he chose
normalize
murder.
just leaving your wife.
Right?
You don't have to kill her.
I don't understand. I agree with you. I don't understand that part. Just go. Start a whole new life. At trial, prosecutors painted Vaughn as a man who carefully planned the killings. They argued that he drove his family to a remote stretch of highway, pulled over under the pretense of a bathroom break, and methodically shot each child, and then he killed Kimberly. And of course, finally, to make it look like a struggle, he shot himself in the leg and the wrist. They pointed to
And then left the gun in the car.
at her feet.
What the fuck?
They pointed to his affair, the life insurance policies, and of course they used the forensic evidence, and of course his calm demeanor after the shootings, as well as the inconsistencies in his story, to show his guilt.
Mm-hmm.
To them, this wasn't a snap decision, but premeditated family annihilation. But the defense told a different story. They focused heavily on Kimberly's mental health history. She had previously talked about harming herself, struggled with depression, and had once been hospitalized. The defense argued that Kimberly had a psychotic break and murdered the children, and that Christopher Vaughn wasn't responsible.
Okay, that's fucking bullshit. Just because someone has depression doesn't mean they're likely to have a psychotic break. That is literally a different condition.
Agreed.
That's so whack.
They also criticized the crime scene investigation, saying evidence was mishandled and that the police had tunnel vision, causing them to zero in on Christopher too quickly. They said that Vaughn loved his kids, that he had no history of violence, and that he had passed polygraph tests that police had given him.
Okay, right.
Yeah, we know those are bullshit. We get that.
Yeah, they're total fucking bullshit, and they shouldn't even exist.
And the defense used the fact that there were no eyewitnesses to help kind of make their argument. They said that Christopher had never made a confession. There was no surveillance. And everything involved was circumstantial. Now, a forensic pathologist testified that Kimberly Vaughn was taking 2 medications. When I mispronounce these, you may have to correct me.
Yeah.
Nortriptyline,
Nortriptyline? Yeah.
and Topamax.
Okay, I don't know that one.
Well, these are apparently known for causing increased risk of suicidal thoughts and side effects, including confusion or agitation.
Every single depression medication has a side effect of sometimes impacting and raising suicidal thoughts.
Well, this was central to Vaughn's defense case that Kimberly was
That is
distraught.
literal fucking garbage. That is literally the warning on every depression medication and anxiety ones too.
Agreed. Every time I hear an ad for it, I hear that at the end, and I'm like, yeah, okay. I think I'll take that one.
Right. I guess I could be framed for murder then because I'm on two different antidepressants.
Well, we're going to get into some more of this in a little bit. So just
Oh, I'm
bear
pissed
with
off
me. Bear
already.
with me. After 2 weeks of testimony, the jury deliberated for a total of 50 minutes.
Okay, that's not very long.
On September 27th, 2012, that's a long time, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
Christopher Vaughn was found guilty on 4 counts of first-degree murder.
Hell yeah.
He was given 4 life sentences without the possibility of parole.
Let's rock.
But this is not where this story ends.
Oh my God.
One of the most compelling ongoing aspects of Christopher Vaughn's case isn't just the crime scene itself. It's how the forensic evidence had been interpreted, challenged, and re-examined nearly 2 decades later.
Interesting.
Since his conviction in 2012, Vaughn's defense team and supporters have continued to point to not only Kimberly's mental health history, but also to the disputed forensic evidence that was used at the time. And now newer examinations are being done with different procedural questions that have kind of thrown this whole case into controversy.
Interesting.
We're going to unpack some of those key points.
All right.
One of the most talked about pieces is the physical evidence in the trial was blood found on Kimberly Vaughn's seatbelt. At trial, prosecutors argued that the blood pattern on the seatbelt suggested Christopher had moved his wife's body after killing her, a point used to undermine the defense theories that Kimberly had committed the shooting before turning the gun on herself. But here's the twist. In filings and lawsuits brought by Vaughn's parents, which is echoed by defense advocates, there's a question of how the blood evidence was handled and presented to the grand jury that indicted Christopher.
Interesting.
They allege that a draft lab report dated before the grand jury hearing showed that the blood on the seatbelt belonged to Christopher, not Kimberly. That draft report later altered the grand jury testimony, raising questions about whether the true source of that blood was properly communicated to lawmakers who issued that indictment. It's kind of a mouthful.
Ooh.
We'll get into it. I just want to continue going through this, and then we'll kind of break some of this down.
Yeah.
This dispute doesn't change the conviction. A federal judge dismissed the lawsuit on procedural grounds, but it keeps the debate alive over whether forensic evidence was interpreted and fairly presented. Even beyond the legal findings, the defense narrative had leaned into detailed forensic reinterpretations that challenged the prosecution's conclusions. Some independent analysts and advocates have examined crime scene materials that suggested the bullet trajectories and blood spatter patterns could have been interpreted differently. They're saying it's possible these shots were taken from the passenger seat.
Okay.
I'm going to talk about this now because I need you to understand where this is all going to start going. After I spoke to Erin about this case, she pointed me in the direction of I think it was a 6 or an 8-part documentary series or podcast series about this case. And the woman who was doing the podcast, she was talking to Christopher Vaughn. She was talking to his parents. She was talking to anyone she could talk to. And she finally it was talking to Christopher Vaughn's parents that talked to him, that convinced him that he needed to talk to this woman and completely open up. Christopher Vaughn remembered exactly what happened that day.
Oh. After a while, his memory came back?
No. He always knew. He got out of the car, and he was doing exactly what he said. He was checking the tires, checking the straps. When he said he heard what sounded like firecrackers going off inside the car. When he ran to the driver's door, he opened it, and Kimberly shot at him twice. He then fell to the ground and heard a final gunshot. And he said that he couldn't bring himself to say out loud that his wife Kimberly had killed herself and her children. So he said he couldn't remember.
Even though that's what the defense was saying?
Correct.
Like he couldn't say it?
So he thought, wrongfully, that the forensic evidence would show that he didn't do it. that she did. So he kept his mouth shut. But by the time...
I don't. This story
hold on.
sounds pretty fucking stupid to me.
Hold on. But by the time everything was coming out and he knew he was fucked, he was so racked with guilt over not being able to save his children that at that point he felt he deserved to be in prison for the rest of his life.
Oh.
So this woman who did the podcast, she found outside people to help fund a full-blown forensic investigation.
Wow.
And they got the same car, maybe not exactly the same car, but the same type of car. And they did it all. They even hired an actress to pretend to be someone in the passenger seat struggling with someone trying to put a gun under her chin. And it all came back that it's unlikely, based on the patterns of the way the gunpowder was on underneath her chin, she would have had to have just sat there without moving for him to have done that. That anyone struggling to keep that gun out from under their head would not have had it so perfectly done. So this woman that did this podcast basically came right out and said, there's no way. And now the Innocence Project and all these other people are still trying to get Christopher Vaughn out of prison.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and this is why Erin wrote to him. Because she, after hearing all that, she thinks he's not guilty. And she wanted to talk to him. And she did. She corresponded with him for a little bit.
Wild.
It's crazy. So, in recent years, reputable news outlets have reported that state police declined to refer that case to the FBI for deeper federal review. Because they're basically saying, we don't need the federal government involved. We've got this.
They were the ones who made the mistakes in the first place, if it was that.
If it was that, exactly. Defense attorneys say there remains evidence supportive of Vaughn's innocence, enough that they're considering where and how to present it in future filings for clemency. So, but it should be noted that new affidavits have not been submitted publicly yet.
Meaning
that they haven't moved forward with trying to get him out yet, like a full-blown...
Gotcha.
Yeah. So this isn't about whether or not one man is innocent or guilty. It's about the role of forensic science in the courtroom and how easily interpretation, not just the data, can shape a case.
Very interesting. Yeah, it sounds like, I mean, you almost want like a forensic scientist on each side if it's that inexact of a science.
And
can be interpreted a lot of different ways, which I guess any data can be willfully or unwillfully misinterpreted.
Right, because I mean, realistically, you have 3 children sitting next to each other in a back seat, and if they were each shot twice from the front seat, the blood spatter isn't going to be an exact science in the sense that we don't know how the blood is going to shoot out of each of them with each shot. It could have come from either side.
And I imagine like the way you have to turn around to do that.
Exactly.
Especially if like she's right-handed, I'm thinking. Like you're going to end up probably in the middle anyway.
Right. It's crazy. And the blood on the seatbelt, once Christopher Vaughn came out and said, yeah, remember, he said that he unbuckled her to check if she was okay. And that's why his blood was on the seatbelt.
Okay.
It's
plausible.
Crazy. And that's just it. This could go either way.
Yeah.
It's nuts. And basically what this is proving is that forensic evidence is compelling but not infallible. Lab reports, testimonies, the manner of presentation, it matters as much as the science itself.
Right, and there's a responsibility that scientists have to, much like a judge, cast reasonable doubt upon their results and not act like their data shows something, with 100% certainty when it doesn't.
Exactly. This case was crazy. When I was listening to it, I listened to all of those episodes, and Erin and I would later have the conversations about it. I was blown away, but I was never on one side or the other, and I stand here now, not sure what I believe.
It sounds like it really could have been either thing.
Right.
I wish they would have been, if he had just been honest from the start, they probably could have investigated her more.
Right.
Looked at her message history, seen if she was like giving signs of that she was going to do such a thing. If she had, like people leave Google trails of things like
Right.
this.
Exactly. But
And they
unfortunately,
could have done more investigation of that because it really could have been either thing, it sounds like.
I think he fully believed there would be an in-depth investigation. And unfortunately, to the discredit of the police in here, they did have their blinders on. They didn't bother to investigate any other possibility.
Yeah.
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 They
That's
saw
what it sounds like.
Yeah, they saw the cheating husband with financial problems. And yeah, there was documented mental illness of the wife, but they didn't believe she pulled the trigger. So
Yeah.
willful blindness, but it's his fault. He should have opened his mouth.
Yeah, at the end of the day, and I imagine like that's why he ended up like being like I should go to prison. Like maybe there was reasons he would have known that she was capable of that.
But
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
but would you
I can see how
really?
someone could blame themselves
Oh,
for it.
absolutely, absolutely. Especially because they're like you. I mean, it's crazy to think like, and you know what? I can't even say that because how many times has one spouse, one partner, not realized that the other partner was doing something or capable of something? You can't know that.
Right? You can't. That's,
You
how
know,
many, and I just think of any time when, there's someone in your life who, takes their own life or self-harms or anything. Everyone in their life just searches deep down, how could this possibly be my fault?
right.
This thing that they did. How could I have stopped them? Like it must be my fault that they were so miserable that they did this.
Right. What didn't I see? And I'm gonna guess it's the same with
Yes.
family members and spouses of serial killers. How could I not have
Yeah.
known this? So
Yeah.
it's just one of those things. Like, do I think Christopher Vaughn was a calculating family annihilator? Maybe. Kind of an idiot if he was.
Right. I think it just seems like it was poorly calculated and not like entirely dumb or entirely smart, which makes it like
Which, which
again
leaves us right
suspicious.
here.
Yeah, it's like
Right.
sure he increased the life insurance policies, but I don't know, maybe that's because he felt that he was in debt, so he needed to make sure his family would be okay if something bad happened.
It's tough to say. And the
There's like a
crazy
lot of reasons why, I don't know, anything could be explained.
I'm going to throw out an interesting curveball here that I don't know if I believe it because I don't know Kimberly Vaughn. But imagine that she was suffering in this way mentally, right? Emotionally. And she did find out he was cheating. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe she was like, fuck you. I'm going to send you to prison for the rest of your life. And then took herself out and her kids.
Yeah.
It's unlikely, but
But there's other things along those lines of like she found out that he was cheating and she, in a state of mind figured, well, he doesn't want our family anymore. Maybe she found his emails
maybe. We don't
and
know.
she was in such despair that she was like, it's just better if we all disappear.
It's nuts. And
There's a million ways.
you got to wonder if she thought she killed him in the doorway before shooting herself. If that's
Very
if
possibly.
that's what happened. This case, I mean, this is the end of the case. Like, he's still in prison. They're still waiting to petition for his release, and we have no answers.
Do we know if he's now like he wants to be released?
He does. He has said
Okay.
he's working with the groups to get him released, although he does say he still feels like he deserves to be there. So there's that.
Makes sense. Yeah. I mean, oh, that's so fucking hard.
This case was crazy. And I was going to keep going with all the evidence and the forensic mumbo jumbo that I had, gotten from all sorts of legal documents. But then I realized that reading other people's words doesn't work for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and also like sometimes you gotta leave things to the professionals. Like I can cast doubt about like, oh, what do you know about a blood splatter? But I truly know nothing
Yeah,
about
exactly.
forensics and
Right.
crime scene investigation.
Right. And once and if you and the listeners at home as well, if you really want to do it, I think it's called Murder in Illinois. I think it was the first season because there's been a few seasons of it. There's a whole episode dedicated to the forensic reinvestigation of what happened in the car. It's amazing, and it's well worth the listen because I didn't do it justice. The argument for his innocence is heavily weighted after that episode, but I do believe it's done so because the documentarian, the podcaster, wanted him portrayed as innocent.
Right. There's always going to be bias there.
Right. Just the same way as Stephen Avery with the Teresa Hallback murder in, Wisconsin, making a murderer wanted you to think he was innocent, and convicting a murderer wanted you to think he was guilty. So I don't know what I believe, but I don't think those kids are going to get justice regardless.
Right. There's no justice for the dead.
Right. So yeah.
They were killed by one of their parents.
They were.
So
most certainly were. And that's tragic, 100% tragic across the board.
Awful.
But yeah, that was the case of Christopher Vaughn and the Vaughn family. Crazy.
Wow. You're right. That was a wild case. Lots of twists and turns there.
Yeah, and it's funny because on the surface it sounds so obvious. When you were like, fuck this guy, I was like, yes, I got her on the hook.
You goddamn bitch.
I was definitely enjoying that part, I'm not going to lie.
Sure you were.
Oh, man. Anyway, and that's why I had to, at one point, because like I said, I knew I was going too deep into the forensic reports, and I was like, this isn't working for me. But you were like dismissing everyone, so I was like, now I have to like really hammer home what they found.
Yeah.
So, crazy. Again, I still think, is it possible for the police to not look at the forensic evidence because they thought they had their guy? 110%.
Yeah, I mean, how often do we talk about police making mistakes?
Right. So this is one of those cases. This is left openly ambiguous, and I don't think the guy's ever gonna get out. I think it's so hard to overturn a conviction. I don't see him going anywhere. But.
Yeah. Although, you know what? Another thing I'm thinking is like, you kind of can't blame the police for not even investigating that it might have been suicide.
You're right.
Because he didn't even make the accusation.
Yeah, he's sitting there saying, I don't remember what happened, which is shady itself. So
exactly, it's sus.
Yeah, it's so bad. So in the end, if he does spend the rest of his life in prison, it's either 50% he deserves to be there, or the other 50% is you should have said something sooner, jackass.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And it's a tough spot no matter what.
It's crazy. This I like I said, this is one I wanted to cover almost 3 years ago now, and I'm glad we're finally getting to it.
Whoa, we made it here.
We did eventually. And it's funny because I still have one on the back burner that's been there since before I recorded the very first episode, but it has no twists and turns. So I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever cover it.
Is it not a good case?
It's a good case, but it's an unsolved one. It's from Massachusetts. And that was like early on, I wanted to focus on local murders. That's why we started with Molly Bish and Holly Perrine. And I was going to do this one, which was the New Bedford serial killer or the New Bedford highway killer. And it just doesn't have that same 1-2 punch that we've grown accustomed to. So.
And it's crazy that we're 160 episodes in, there's still a million cases that shock us and teach us new things.
Exactly. And next week, let me tell you, that one you're gonna buckle up again. We've got some good ones lined up.
Well, all right, I'll be mentally ready for that.
Yeah, I was gonna tell you the name, but I'm like, no. One, I know you won't look it up, but two, just in case.
Yeah, just so our listeners don't look it up.
Yeah, that's true too. Although I think most of our listeners might recognize it, but hey, you never know. You never know. I'm sure some of our listeners are like me. All right. Well, anyway, thank you everyone for listening. Once again, I am Janus Dead.
And I'm Joyous Dead.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye.